These knives are the VG10 Nashiji series by Takayuki out of Seki, Japan. We have a Gyuto, Kiritsuke, Santoku, Nakiri, and Bunka. In this video, I'm going to break down all the specs of the knives, then I'm going to strop them, do a paper test, and then you're going to get to see them in action with various cutting techniques like tap, push, and rock chopping. Now, all I've done with these knives is take them out of the box, do the product videography for our website, and wash them. That's it. I've never used them. I haven't honed them, stropped them, sharpened them, nothing. This is as just straightforward as it gets for a first use video. So let's dive into these VG10 blades. The VG10 stainless steel core comes in at that 60 to 61 Rockwell, so they are going to hold an edge nicely, but they're also going to be relatively easy to sharpen compared to a lot of other Japanese blades, and you will be able to use them a little bit more aggressively than some other harder steel options. The blade has a San Mai construction with a Nashiji finish. The handle is very interesting on these. They are listed on the site as hexagonal, but they are technically octagonal. It's just that two sides are very, very small. What's interesting about them is the way that they taper into the underside of the handle, and it feels very good in the back of your hand, right at your pinky and your ring finger. So if you have used octagonal handles in the past and they didn't quite fit right, these may do the trick if you're looking for a nice hybrid. The spine thickness of all of these at the heel is 2 millimeters, and these are, as a whole, just very lightweight, nimble knives from what I could tell just by handling them while doing my product videography work for the website. So let's dive in. I'm going to strop each of these, and then I'm going to just slice some paper, see what happens. For stropping, we're going tip to heel and tip to heel. This is the Kramer leather strop. Whenever you get a knife, I don't care if it's a $50 blade or if it's a $500 blade, hone it, strop it. That way your first experience with it is as it should be, so to speak. There are some very expensive blades that I've gotten that just in transit, they just need a little love after getting bumped around. Okay, so this is the Gyuto. So slicing through, great. And then this, I'm just seeing how the knife goes through without pulling and slicing, just letting the weight go down at different parts of the blade, and that was fantastic. Let's go next to the Kiritsuke. On the website, this is listed as a Kiritsuke Gyuto. As far as I'm concerned, because of how straight the spine is, this is a Kiritsuke, but we go by whatever we're told to call these. But I'm gonna call it a Kiritsuke in this video, just so you know. Okay, paper test, a couple slices, woo! And then just some weight. Beautiful. The reason that I'm doing that, where I'm just lightly letting the knife go through while just ever so slightly pulling backwards, it's not because I'm trying to quickly slice. I'm trying to see, is the blade getting hung up on the paper anywhere, or is the paper getting hung up on the blade? So far, so good with these two knives. I gotta make sure that I'm not stepping all over paper and getting all stuck to my feet, because that happens sometimes. Next up is the Santoku. Tip to heel. And when you're stropping, you are going towards the spine, away from the edge of the blade. There we go. Beautiful. excellent. So far, so good. The Nakiri, ooh, this has got quite the curve at the tip here. I think this is going to be amazing for rock chopping. Wow. I don't know if I've ever seen a Nakiri have such a distinct and dominant curve at the tip there. I mean, I've seen them have a curve. The Enzos have a pretty decent curve, but that's pretty dramatic in a good way. So this will be interesting to see how it performs. Beautiful. Yeah. Okay, one more to go, the Bunka. So far, so good. These are very thin blades. These are not going to be workhorse blades. These are going to be more like lasers. I have some carrot and potato just to see how they perform, but I'm not expecting them to perform in a crazy way. Sometimes with those thicker root vegetables, you want a bit more of a wider geometry to help get through it, because sometimes these real thin blades, as you're going in, they're so sharp and so thin, they almost get stuck in them. We'll see what happens. Okay, so the Bunka, did I strop it? I think so. I'm sitting here talking and thinking about potatoes. Do you know the movie? Okay, here we go. I mean, pretty darn good. Yeah. Okay, so all of these out of the box are sharp, without a doubt. They pass the paper test, not just from the quick slice, but they pass the paper test with letting the weight of the blade go through, which is more important than just doing the slice. I can go through and slice paper with some knives that aren't super sharp, but then they won't even cut tomato skin. It's bizarre. Or they won't go through that straight down with just the blade itself. Okay, let's get started with some, I forgot my bench scraper. Oh well, I'm just gonna use the side of the blade. They're VG10. You can use the side of the blade. I'm gonna scrape, I'm gonna beat these a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna do my apple first because it's gonna be my snack. Apple, let's get started with the Bunka here. Here we go. See how I am going like this? Because this Bunka has a pretty big raise to the tip there. So I'm coming down in, I'm hitting the tip, and then I am scooping, so to speak, upward so that I'm making surface contact with the cutting board with the entire blade. Now, if I were to do the same thing here with the Nakiri, I can just go straight down. I don't need to do that scoop because this has such a straight edge profile until the tip there, which, whew, that is gonna have a nice rock when we are doing the green onion. This is the Santoku. Pretty decent edge profile. I don't have to really do too much of a scoop there, but I also have a bit longer of a blade compared to, for these smaller pieces maybe. Nice, nice, nice. This is the Kiritsuke. Well, we got some apple on the floor. I'll survive. And the Gyuto. The weight of this is very different. Obviously it's different. It's a longer blade. There's more metal. I will say as well, for as thin of a blade that these are and as lightweight, the handles are very nicely weighted with the ebony wood. And I'm not sure exactly how they're weighted, but I've used plenty of other ebony wood handles before that are octagonal that don't have that type of, maybe it's the taper, I don't know, but it feels like they've got a little bit of extra weight to them, which I really enjoy for a knife that is this light. Okay. So far, so good. Oh, we got a little bit left over. Let's go back to this Nakiri. I like thin little pieces of apple like this to snack on because it makes the apple last longer. Since these are stainless steel, I don't have to worry about wiping these down in between each ingredient. I only really would have to do that if they got super filthy, but for where I'm at so far, I'm in good shape. Okay, let's go on to the bell pepper. Let's get started with the Gyuto. Okay, that is a breeze. Bell pepper, woo! Man, I like the blade height of this Kiritsuke. I don't know exactly how much higher it is. I can probably throw the specs up here on the video. Definitely a couple millimeters, I would say roughly a 1/4 inch higher. And I could feel that immediately. That felt really, really good. I really like that. At the same time, what I do like about this thinner Gyuto is being able to come through like this and get rid of that pith easily. And when you have a more narrow blade, it certainly makes it easier. Bell pepper skin can be the nemesis to a knife, much so like a tomato skin. So being able to get through these easily. You can tell in videos when knives aren't super sharp because with a bell pepper, they make this popping sound when they go through the skin when they are pushing through it instead of slicing through it. It's happened to me on videos before. I just ignore it. But for those who know, you know, okay, the Kiritsuke, the Gyuto, here's the Santoku. So because I'm doing this Julienne, I'm gonna get that little bit of a rock motion because I'm dealing with a larger, longer product with a shorter blade that starts to curve right about there. So if I was going straight down, my surface contact is ending right about here. So that's why when you are doing this push, tap, scoop, chop hybrid, you need to be, excuse me, you need to be able to make sure you're getting the surface contact. That Nakiri feels really good. Let's see how this works. We're just doing a little bit of that. Yeah, that wider blade at the tip there certainly, I mean, obviously I got it done, but it makes a difference. You know, if you're prepping bell pepper or Julienne all day and you're working in a restaurant, I would prefer to have a longer, thinner tip blade that still has really good surface contact like this Gyuto. And that's why they make knives different shapes and sizes. Even same Gyuto compared to the others I have, that's going to be more of a narrow, nimble tip, which I really like. I'm not going to lie, I had some reservations with these knives, even doing this video. And the reason why is, and I'm going to preface this with, this doesn't mean it's a bad knife, okay? I'm going to talk more about it when I get to the onion. The Nashiji finish up top here, no big deal. But this part of the blade is, it's got a little bit of grip to it. It's got a matte type of finish. I haven't felt it, but sometimes it can grip into product when you're going very fast and you have a higher product. So the onion is where I'm really going to see this if it does happen. They're in here so it doesn't stink up my entire studio. These knives falling in that 150 to 170 mark, if it does happen, it's just the style of the knife. It's no big deal. I mean, this is a $600 some Nigara Damascus, and some of the Kramers and some of these other Kurochi that go the Kurochi goes closer to the blade, you can feel that grip. It doesn't mean it's a bad knife, it's just the style. So if you are blasting through onion Julienne, you might want a completely polished blade, but I think these are going to be okay. We'll see. Let's go to the Bunka here. I don't know what to call this style of cutting because it's not a push. I'm not coming in like that and coming back. It's not a tap. It's not a rock. It's almost like So this is the rock with the tip always on the cutting board. This is almost like an elevated rock because I'm doing that like scooping, rocking type of feel. So that's more of a push, which I can get away with, but because of the curvature of this, I really have to accentuate that push motion. But this, we got to figure out a name for it. Is it the scoop, the swoop type chop? I don't know. We got to figure this out. Okay. Wish I had my bench scraper. Let's do some tomato slicing. Kiritsuke. Gyuto. Santoku. Nakiri. Bunka. So far, they have passed the bell pepper skin test and the tomato test, so, and the paper test. I'm impressed. I prefer a forged blade that's got a bit wider of a spine, that has that just hand ground geometry type of feel to it. And I've had some thin blades like this that I've tried that I don't know. They didn't flow right. Could have been the weight. It could have been the grind, the angle of the sharpened edge. I don't know. The weight distribution. I don't know. But I'm really enjoying these. Oh, I forgot this. Let's go back to this guy here. Another quick bell pepper. So I am going to try and do this like as fast as possible without talking. Not too shabby. I'm going to throw a lot of the stuff on the Traeger flat rock, make some type of stir fry. I've got some shrimp. It'll be good. Carrot. We're going to go right down the line, starting with the Kiritsuke. I'm going to cut these into coins, and I don't know if I'm going to cook them or it'll be for a salad, but I'm going to get a tap going here. Breezing through. Notice how I just shifted to the back half of the blade. The reason why is I am closer in my control and stability back here, and I'm getting to a thicker product, so I need to be able to know that I have that force. Santoku. I think this Nakiri is going to do very well for this. I'm going to start over. I'm going to start back here. That's quite nice. I really like that Nakiri. And the Bunka. I prefer to do a fast tap chop like this. You can see some of these got a little thick. I started going on an angle. I prefer to do a fast tap chop with a straighter edge profile than the curved Bunka. And a little bit taller of a blade. Especially with a firmer product like this. If I was using a thin, shorter prep style knife, like a Haneski or that, and I was just tap chopping some mushrooms, I wouldn't worry about it. But I've learned, even on camera where I cut myself with the Enzo Kobunka, because I was going from knife to knife to knife, fast tap chopping, julienning onions higher off the cutting board. You just kind of learn what to do and what not to do. Okay, we're gonna go to the onions. Actually, we'll do the green onions next. Get a little rock chop in. So the only knife that I would say might give me a little bit of a struggle with the rock chop. Actually, no, that's got quite the curvature going up there. I think this should be totally fine. Sometimes the Kiritsuke, if you come up too high, the tip will dig in. Same thing with the Bunka, but these have pretty nice curves. So I'm gonna split these up into 2 bunches. Actually, yeah, I'm not gonna spend like 30 minutes on this. So here we go. I get more into a tap at first, or a push rather, to get through the white. When I get into that pale green, which is still firm, but not super firm, that's when I can start getting into a rock. Some of you may have noticed that I just totally shifted my grip. I went from a higher up pinch grip to backing off and more on the handle of my thumb and bringing my pointer finger back. And I also lowered my shoulder a little bit so that I was able to get into that flow with the rock. So keep that in mind. The way you hold a knife and the position of your body can vary based off of not only the type of knife that you are using, but the cutting technique that you're performing. Okay, that feels good. It doesn't feel amazing. I've also leaned away from the rock chop for a while now because of using higher Rockwell Japanese knives. I would rather go a little bit slower like this and do, or faster, and just continue to do a push chop. But that feels okay. I would say that that's got a little bit better of a flow for me than the Kiritsuke. And it could be just the length, it could be the curvature, that more nimble tip, I don't know. But that feels like a little bit better of a flow for me personally. Can you rock chop with the Kiritsuke? Absolutely. Now, let's do the Nakiri. I'm very curious about this. I know you're gonna be able to rock chop with the other two, but let's see what happens here. I'm hitting this kind of hard, harder than I would most other things and techniques, but the reason why is I want to make sure I get through the product and I'm coming straight down, so I'm making sure that I get a clear contact with the cutting board. Now, if I'm doing a push, because I'm getting a little bit of a slice in there to get through it, I don't have to worry about it as much. Ooh, just as I expected. I'm going to back up on the blade a little bit. Yeah, I got to tell you, that feels good. It flows. I think my whole thing with a rock chop is when I do it, I want a long, softer steel blade that I can get a really good flow with. Can you do it with this? Yes, absolutely. But my personal preference is, to me, if I can do that, even with the Santoku, if I can do this and not worry about damaging my blade and tweaking it and all of that as you do when you're rock chopping the Bunka, I would much rather go through and do a push chop and then the very end here, finish with a little rock all day. I think that, like in culinary school, we were taught the rock chop. Do the rock chop. They say it's safer. They say you'll get more familiar with the knife. I totally disagree. Now that this is my life is knives, I think that the push chop should be the chop that everyone learns immediately, because the rock chop is going to teach you lazy habits, and it's also going to inhibit you from being able to just easily adapt to harder Rockwell knives. There, I said it. I've got some onions, and I'm just gonna blast through these. So this isn't an hour-and-a-half long video. And then I'm gonna cut up some potato chunks, probably roast them, and go from there. Here we go, Kiritsuke. My reservations about these blades being grippy, gone, sailed, see you later. That felt beautiful. Little tip, this is higher than wider, so all you gotta do is plop her down and continue. Now you have a wider base and a safer cutting experience. The Bunka I'm gonna save for the small one here. Beautiful. Santoku. I'm going a little slower because I have a shorter blade, and that was probably the tallest one. And the Nakiri. And we're going to end this onion tap chop going back to the Gyuto. It feels good, man. It feels real good. I am pleasantly surprised with these blades. All of them. I would say if I had to pick a favorite, as of right now, if I had to pick a favorite, it would be the Gyuto. I just love the blade profile. I love how it gets thin at the top like this. It's a pretty narrow Gyuto compared to others. Yeah. I like this a lot. That Nakiri has got some good flow to it. The other ones are great as well, but again, I'm being honest, if I had to only buy one of this series, it would be that Gyuto. But if I had the whole entire set, obviously, you could see I'm totally good. The only thing that I'm surprised this series doesn't have, or maybe I just didn't get, or I didn't see it in the shop, is a petty. I think a petty that has a little bit of a heel to it would be perfect for wrapping and up and rounding out that entire series. Cover this up because I'll just smell onion the entire day that I'm editing. And here we go. POE-TAY-TOE. Nakiri. Woo! Okay. Gyuto. Kiritsuke. All right. Everything. Why are these working so well? I am confused, as my father-in-law would say, after 7 or 8 bourbons. I am really surprised by that's the only one. The Santoku is the only one that I felt so far that gave me a little bit of resistance there. I don't know why, but damn. Okay. There you have it. This is the Takayuki VG10 Nashiji series, ranging from about $150 to $170 full retail price based off of June 12th, 2025. VG10 stainless steel core, 60-61 Rockwell with this hexagonal, octagonal, tapered ebony wood handle. The Gyuto, the Kiritsuke, Bunka, Santoku, and the Nakiri. The two that personally impressed me the most, the Gyuto and this Nakiri. Something about them. The others are good knives. Those, there's just, for me personally, there's just a little extra. I really like this Gyuto. I'm going to put this downstairs in my chopping block, well, on my spinner magnetic thing, and give this a whirl for a few weeks and let my wife also use it and abuse it and see how it holds an edge and go from there. But so far, I would say that for these more affordable budget stamped knives, nothing fancy, they're not hand forged, but for the price and their performance, pretty damn good. I'm Chef Brandon with Cutlery and More. Thanks so much for tuning in. Check out all of the Takayuki knives that we have at cutleryandmore.com, as well as the VG10 Nashiji series. Time to clean up. Take care.